Welcome to Colts Talk, presented by Prize Picks. Billy Beebe back with you. Before we jump into a really fun video that we've got going for you guys today, I do want to ask you guys to share today's video. A simple request, and why, when you share, the channel grows. More Colts videos, more Colts content coming your way, brought to you by Colts Talk. Also, you guys will prove to us by sharing how big a Colts fan you really are. You know the channel, you're letting other people know about it, right? And it's a chance to interact with other fans, whether it be on the video or letting your friends know about Colts Talk. So be sure to share today's video. Okay, so I was taking a look around at some other chat sports channels, and they did some off-season additions, the demons that teams have added, so to speak, right? A little fun about the guys added to the roster that could help their team in 2026. Did well. Fans loved it on other channels. I said Colts fans will love it even more because that's how we do it here on Colts Talk. So let's get into it. Top 10 offseason additions for the Colts that will help them in 2026. Really just a highlight on some of the names, right? Whether it be big help, little help, future help, they will help this team coming up here. We begin with a veteran presence the team added. Look, a couple of these names you may have forgot about because it's been a minute. Akeem Davis-Gaither, the linebacker, former Bengal, former Cardinal. Indy adds Akeem Davis-Gaither to the linebacker room, really in the hopes of stabilizing it just a little bit. And we know the linebacker room pre-draft was a bit of like a hot topic, right? This is something we really talked about. And Akeem Davis-Gaither, NFL experience, NFL guy. He's played in games. He's been successful, right? Those Bengals teams, he was a solid part of some winning Bengals teams there, and that's a very big deal. And the Colts clearly had enough confidence that he could still do it at a high level to bring him here to Indy. Big thing here was Ballard wanted new linebackers, right? He talked a lot about the defense getting younger and faster. I think linebacker especially is where he wanted to not just get younger and faster, but I just think he wanted to change. He wanted new things, and at times I think he thought maybe he wanted younger players, and then I think he got to a point where it was like, well, I can't just have a bunch of rookies out there, so he brings in Akeem Davis-Gaither. That brings you stability, right? Look, I know stability is not the utmost fun term for anything in the world, but it's probably what the Colts needed most on this defense, and it's what they're going to need in 2026. Talk about injuries, you talk about inexperienced, a lot of guys playing out of position, trying to learn a different position. Let's just get a veteran linebacker in there that can make a difference because they know what they're doing. That's what I think Akeem Davis-Gaither is going to do at the will linebacker position for Indy. Now, let's get to a guy if you watch the show how excited I am about Caden Curry. The Buckeye edge rusher makes his way to Indianapolis as a later-ish draft pick for the Colts. But look, the edge rusher position was one we talked a lot about in the offseason. And with Caden Curry, I don't think this is like your Trey Hendrickson replacement, which you should be happy about. But I believe every team has hidden draft gems, right? Somebody that not enough people paid attention to, but they did, and they snagged, and it's a good thing going forward. I think that is Caden Curry for the Indianapolis Colts. You like the fact that he's an Indy native. You like the fact that he's already fitting in well and talking about, growing up in the Colts and this and that. Let's just go at the fact that, dude was really good on the number one defense in the country. I think that part specifically was super slept on in his draft process overall with Caden Curry. He had to wait his turn at Ohio State. That happens, right? He had his opportunity and did a really, really good job this past season for the Buckeyes. Look, the defensive line room for Indy is crowded. The Colts added a lot of names. We talked about the Moneyball approach at the edge rusher position, and then defensive tackle, they added a bunch of new names at that one. So Caden Curry, he's going to get a shot to earn playing time, no doubt about it, right? He is going to be able to go in there and fight it out with, JT Tuimoloau and, Arden Key and some other names in that edge rusher room, but also they have a lot of guys, right? So there are some guys that are going to start above Caden Curry, and he's going to have to work his way up. However, like I said, I believe he is a draft gem, and I think that will show at some point for the Colts next season. Reminder, today's show is presented by America's #1 sports picks app. That is Prize Picks. I'm on the Prize Picks app every day right now, and why? It's the best place to win cash while watching sports. Let's talk about the lineups for a second, because I was just showing a buddy yesterday. They're easy to put together. You just pick more or less on a few player stats. He asked me about baseball. I show him. You can go with hits, home runs, or strikeouts there. Then I showed him a little bit about basketball. kind of talked about, hey, the playoffs are coming to a wrap. I want to take advantage of it. I want to win cash while watching basketball. And then we went over one of the lineups we've got going here at Chat Sports, couple channels showing this bad boy, and we'll talk about how easy it is to copy a lineup like this when you like it. Jalen Brunson, free throw attempts, more on 5.5 there in game 1 of the championship series here. Karl Anthony Towns, 3-pointers attempted. We went more on 4 there. And then Stephon Castle, 16.5 points. We went more on that one there. So more on a couple player stats. That's kind of what we got going for the championships coming up, championship series to take a look at there. And I like this lineup. What did I do with the new social feeds feature? You can share Prize Picks lineups with your friends. This was sent to us by one of our NBA channels. We copied the lineup with a single click, right? And you can do that with any of the lineups we show here on the show. If you follow myself, Billy_Beebe, or at CSAP, yeah, it's just like social media. Follow your friends as well. Copy their lineups with a single click. Prize Picks also now has early payouts, so if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Also, we have a new user offer. Download the Prize Picks app today with the link in the comment section and description. Then use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Kind of cheated on this one, okay? It is technically an off-season edition, right? They brought him back. They brought back full Blake Grupe, the kicker, to their lineup after bringing him in for little over half a season last year after the Spencer Schrader injury. You get a electric, amazing, great season from Blake Grupe in that stretch that he had for the Colts. He was perfect in multiple spots, and he hit a franchise record 60-yard field goal. Super impressive stuff. The Colts bring him back. Obviously, he'll have to compete mainly in training camp with Spencer Schrader. Look, I think Blake Grupe's your kicker. I think he's Indy's kicker. I think he's going to win the competition. I think he should win the competition. He's in a good spot now, and I think he'll carry that into training camp. Because kicker and all these other positions, I mean, we've talked about here on the show, you can't risk health right now. That's such a big deal for the Colts. Can't have a kicker that's recovering, Spencer Schrader. Hate faulting him for it, but that's just where the Colts are. Spencer Schrader's recovering from a massive leg injury. You know, the updates we got, he's ahead of schedule, and then they said he's like kicking flat balls in practice and things like that. It's like, well, I'd like a kicker who's developing and getting better and getting acclimated and like those kind of things. And that's what Grupe's doing. Schrader's recovering, Grupe's developing. Look, Schrader's going to get back. He'll have his chance to compete, but I think Blake Grupe is going to be a major addition, not just for 2026, but into the future for the Colts at the kicker position. Let's get to a fan favorite. Deion Burks taken late, and the fans still can't get enough of the wide receiver from Oklahoma. Look, Deion Burks, we've lightly thrown him out there as a possible wide receiver too. I mean, we need to see more, right? We need more OTAs videos from people, and we need, preseason snaps, and we need comments from coaches and like all that stuff, right? That is kind of the big thing with Deion Burks. Here's my thing with Deion Burks. Speed kills, and he's got speed. That's the deal with the Oklahoma wide receiver here. The Colts will find a way to use Deion Burks. Maybe it is wide receiver too. I don't know. Maybe it's special teams. Maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe it's the practice squad and he helps there. I think in some way, I doubt it's practice squad, but I think some way Deion Burks will help the Colts in 2026. You can see here, dude's super fast, tested fast. He'll stay fast. That'll be great for Indy to have next season. You give me a name. I got to finish this list out, but what is your biggest offseason roster addition for the Colts? Give us a name down in the comment section below. This will be our pinned comment on the video. Another name that I think people, a little bit forgotten just because he was in the earlier part of the offseason for the Indianapolis Colts, that is defensive tackle Colby Wooden, the former Green Bay Packer. And if you forgot about this guy, he was the swap in the Zaire Franklin trade, right? The Colts, who were set to cut Zaire Franklin, end up getting Colby Wooden in the deal. A little bit of an experienced defensive tackle. Look, I'm not going to sell you on a big, this is, DeForest Buckner's replacement, game wrecker, dude's going to plow through. This is a guy who can make a difference on the field. And when you're asking your third, fourth, fifth defensive tackles, when you're on those guys due to injury or worse, other options, you have to have a guy that can play. Wooden started off as a very, very rotational piece in Green Bay, but obviously in the past year amped it up to a high level for the Packers. Became a guy that could get after the quarterback, became a guy that could, actually do things for the team, be on the field for the team. Packers team that's competitive, right? He was out there at the defensive tackle position. And I do think, how it goes at this defensive tackle position in general. You're going to see guys rotate. You're going to see guys change out. Guys will get different opportunities. Heck, some guys may pass up Colby Wooden, but in general, I feel really good about what he can actually do on the field for Indy in 2026. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. We are once again here on Colts Talk. I think the two biggest topics, probably Anthony Richardson trade rumors and then wide receiver 2 for Indy. And I think Nick Westbrook-Ikhine has the inside edge at that position as of right now. Once again, like a guy that the Colts signed, and we're talking here in the office, and I'm asking Tom Downey about him. Tom Downey remembered him, and he's like, 2 years ago, it was his season. 2 years ago, he really made it happen. That's it. That's the whole thing for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. If he can do what he did in 2024, demon mode for the Colts. Why? Dude just caught touchdowns, right? He was just open catching touchdowns, making plays. Look, was it a 1,000-yard season? Was it a Michael Pittman Jr.-esque replacement? Not necessarily, but hey, if the Colts can get anywhere near that 2024 season from Westbrook-Ikhine, I'm feeling pretty good about the effect he can have on the 2026 offense in general. Another name I'm very excited about from the 2026 NFL Draft for the Indianapolis Colts, linebacker Bryce Boettcher, the former Oregon Duck, arrives to Indy as the ultimate athlete. I have joked around the office a little bit here. Yes, you're reading that right. He was an MLB draft pick by the Houston Astros. That should show you good numbers too, by the way. I believe I saw Gold Glove and hitting 260 and multiple homers. Like, he was a good baseball player, but super, super athlete for Oregon. I mean, they just really loved him, and clearly the Colts loved him, and the Colts made him a part of their future at the linebacker position. And again, we've talked about what the Colts had to do at linebacker, right? They had to remake this room a little bit. They had to do something new in this room a little bit, and we'll get to CJ Allen. No big giveaway there, but Akeem Davis-Gaither. And then look, I think Boettcher can play Mike or Will linebacker, and I think they will find a spot for him on special teams. All that goes into it. And again, you talk about the future. If it's a one and done for Akeem Davis-Gaither, great. And then you move on to a guy like Bryce Boettcher, who's super athletic and will have more experience at that point in time. A lot about the linebackers. The Colts have made a swap, new names at that position. My question for you, did the Colts get better or worse at linebacker? Type B for better, W for worse. Let us know down below. Another possibly forgotten man. I feel like there was the free agency stretch and the draft, right? And that's what a lot of people remember. Indy brings in Taylor-Britt at the cornerback position, a former second-round pick with the Cincinnati Bengals. Had I would say a year and a half, a solid play for Cincy. And they really were getting excited about him, and then just a disastrous 2025. Not only was he hurt, you get legal trouble off the field, just like, I hate deeming it the year from hell, but definitely not good in general for Taylor-Britt. But as of right now, the saving grace, the hope, the thing that could happen for Taylor-Britt that I'm excited about, he is reunited with his former Cincy defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. Now in Indy, obviously, as the defensive coordinator. So look, fresh start. I don't know if he'll maybe compete for nickel. I don't know if he'll just maybe play a couple of snaps if somebody gets hurt. But I think it's a really good opportunity for Taylor-Britt to get a fresh start, maybe get back to that road to potential that he had before. All right, Arden Key at the edge rusher position. I'll make we have McDonald's at home joke here just because you wanted Trey Hendrickson, you wanted Joey Bosa. Chris Ballard gave you Arden Key, a 2-year, $16 million contract. Look, Arden Key, similar to Akeem Davis-Gaither, maybe a little bit better. You just have a solid pro player here. That's how I would describe Arden Key. He's done it I don't want high is such a difficult term there, but he's been a good NFL player for multiple years in a row, right? Teams continue to be interested in him for a reason. Maybe this guy is not on the Hendrickson level or the Joey Bosa level at linebacker. But as of right now, look, that edge rusher group, it needed a makeover. You lost a lot of names there, and you felt like you needed more at it. And again, I think stability matters here. I think it's going to play a big part in why your edge rushers help your defense out a lot. And then the number one offseason addition for the Indianapolis Colts. It is the steal of the draft. C.J. Allen, the Colts' first pick, not the first rounder, but their first pick in the draft in the second round. And look, a green dot on an SEC Georgia defense, no complaints here. Originally supposed to be a first-round pick. I don't care what happened. I don't really know what happened necessarily for him to drop. He dropped, and the Colts snagged him. My big thing is, you're going to love what you're going to get from C.J. Allen. You're still going to get the growing pains. You're going to get the adjustments. My whole thing is, I think about this defense. I think about the additions. I think about what the Colts did. Can't stop thinking if they didn't get C.J. Allen, I'd be worrying so much about the Colts defense. I don't have to worry, though. They did get C.J. Allen. He is on the Colts defense, and he is my number one addition from the Colts offseason. And again, you can go through the top 10 here. Disagree with me if you want. These are my personal picks, just reminding you some of the guys, some of the demons that the Colts picked up here that are going to help them in the 2026 season. That's all for us here on Colts Talk. Be sure to subscribe.